Hey folks, Curtis Stone here. Today we are carrying on our series of videos where we look at all the states and provinces in North America and we put them through the filter of what makes a good homestead property. And we're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, where to avoid, where to consider, and maybe some just general considerations from there. So today we're looking at Florida. I love Florida. I love going down there. Warm pretty much all year round. Maybe a little too hot in the summer, but it's a beautiful place to be. And unfortunately, the thing with Florida, I find the biggest issue Florida has, in my opinion. Actually, there's two. There's two issues. Number one is the weather can be really dicey. And so it really can limit where you want to be if you don't want to have that underlying worry that a hurricane or a tsunami is going to come and wipe you out, because it does happen in Florida. The second thing is there's just too many people in Florida, in my opinion. And so that's kind of the reality of it. Another one is that everybody wants to move to Florida. So you have a supply and demand issue with real estate, is that when there's high demand, the price is high. So that's a challenge there. And I actually find that there's really only one part of Florida. Well, we've got two in here, but there's really only one part of Florida that I would recommend moving to, and that's up here. Because everything down here, one, you got the weather. Two, it's way too overpopulated. And three, the prices are unattainable for many. And so I wouldn't recommend living anywhere in here, frankly, just straight up. For homesteading, it's too populated. Like, even if you find some nice little, there's really no rural areas in Florida except up here. But you'll get pockets. But you're surrounded by so many people, like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, like West Palm Beach. It's insane how many people live in this area. Even Tampa, Naples, Gainesville, like these are populated areas. Daytona Beach, I mean, Orlando. And I like these places, don't get me wrong. It's just that there's too many people. It's too urban. And so it doesn't really make sense for a homestead. Not to say you can't do it. Hey, you might say, Curtis, how dare you? I'm down here just outside of Orlando and I'm crushing it. And good for you. And you might be. But I'm just looking at what we got to consider today. If you were to come to me as a consulting client and ask me, where do we set up in Florida? You're paying for my opinion and my time. I'm going to tell you, get out of here. Go up here. Because this is way more rural, way less population dense, way less concrete, way more trees, way more fresh air. And frankly, I think the weather's a bit more stable up here. And you can go into the FEMA maps of the United States and you'll actually find that to be the case too. There's less hurricane risk up in here, and you'll generally find a bit more of a stable climate. Though it's still going to be hot in August, but it's not like this. I mean, down in Miami, the southern tip of Florida is the only place in the U.S., I believe, that's a zone 10. So you're tropical pretty much there. Zone 9, you're almost tropical. But, that's hot summers. And this is hot year round. And so that also has challenges. I mean, and it's, a big marsh down here. You're not going to be homesteading in the Everglades here. It's just, can't really do it. This is it almost under sea level here, and so it's just a risky place to live. I wouldn't even consider it. So that same goes for Key West. I mean, the real estate's so expensive there that you're not going to get in there anyways very easily. So where we're looking at is up here. And so as far as no-go zones, most of Florida, forget about it. Okay, just again, I know there's exceptions out there. Hey, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I would just avoid all these areas altogether. And even Tallahassee, like this is all peri-urban at best. It's very urban. There's a lot of people in these areas. So you're looking at up here. That's really where you're looking at. So these are where our good areas are. Okay, so we got one area kind of in the Gainesville area. That's not bad. You got some rural pockets there. A little bit less population dense. You're way outside of Jacksonville, and that's not a that's an urban. That's a bit too thug culture for me. So I don't go to those places. Just like Atlanta or something like that. I don't go to those places. I stay out of those places. Let's see, Walmart on a Black Friday. Forget about that. So we're looking up here, and we actually picked. What have we got today? We got 4 properties actually. So let's check them out. So we got 115 acres here in that Gainesville area. We're well off the interstate. Good private drive in. Not actually no. What we've got here is an easement coming through the property, which might not be that big of a deal. But yeah, because there's a dead end there. And then this, you're not going to get a lot of thorough traffic here, but you'll get neighboring traffic. And this is just kind of the reality of situations that you have in areas where there's a lot of demand, there's a lot of people, and there's not a lot of real estate available. You're going to get that. And so this one actually, my team should have ruled this one out. Actually, I probably wouldn't have listed a property that had an easement like that going right through the center. But just pretend that's just a driveway, that would be great. But typically an easement we would rule out. So note for my team there, that's okay. We do this in real time. But if you just ignore that road, we got a lot of fundamentals here. Good access in, nice core of the homestead with trees all around it. We've got lots of trees in the back 40. We got fields we can use. This has all the hallmarks of a really good homestead. Doesn't have a pond. We like to see ponds. We like to see at least 2 water sources on homestead properties typically. But I would actually rule that one out because of that easement. And I wouldn't suggest a client of mine buy a property that has an easement or a driveway or a road going through it. So that's okay. Here we've got, this looked like it was used for some kind of equestrian type thing. These look like horse paddocks. They might have been something else at one point. Maybe they did some cows here, but we got a lot of good fundamentals. Access in, and we've got fields, paddocks, nature, ponds, zones of use. We've got, you're going to have 2 sources of water here. You'd have a pond, rainwater collection, and maybe a well, or maybe you're tied into a municipal water service. So you could potentially have 3 sources of water there. And that's a great homestead. Let's check out, that's 40 acres. Let's check out 18 acres way up on the northwestern side of the state. Boom, this is what we're talking about a little bit more. Nice and private, trees all around, nice inner homestead, easy access in, turnaround driveway, which is really good. House, shop, it looks like an RV, got some fields, maybe the frame of a greenhouse. Got a little gravel pit there or something like that. This is a banger. This is an absolute banger. That's what we're looking for right there. That's an ideal homestead. I mean, obviously not commenting on the condition of the buildings because we're not looking at in this way. And these properties aren't for sale. We just picked them randomly. But that's got the hallmarks of a really good homestead right there. And then we got 250 acres just a little south from here. Let's check that out. Boom. That's what we're talking about too. Look at that. That's production. So you got some fields you might lease out, or maybe you want to grow some sort of cash crops. Hay, looks like they're doing, they're just mowing hay on here or something like that. Wow, big pond, or it's even a lake that you're sharing. Nice access in. Yeah, that property's a banger. That's amazing. You just have to figure out what you're going to do with these fields because somebody's been farming them in the past. And if you're not going to farm them, you don't want to let those just go wild. They're going to get full of invasives and it's going to suck. So either you might want to lease those out to a farmer or you might want to farm them themselves. This property is kind of interesting because part of it is accessible off the interstate. That's not great, but the homestead is offset from that. So I might rule this one out too, actually. I wouldn't want to be on an interstate. I'm surprised that the team put this one in here. It could be because the access isn't off the interstate. That's why. The access to the property is down here. And so it could be okay. It could be okay, but you will hear that highway, especially over this body of water. You're going to hear that noise when the cars come and trucks come through here. You're going to hear that noise all the time. So that might not be great. But yeah, that's some food for thought with Florida. You know, again, I wouldn't go anywhere near down here. I'd be up here. And I don't like to be on the ocean. I don't really recommend properties being on the ocean. It's better to be high and dry. You know, when the weather's volatile, it happens on the oceans first. They're the main drivers of our climate. And so they have to be treated with respect. And I prefer just not be on them. Yeah, sure, it's nice to have a place on the beach, but that's more for your second home and not your homestead. So I hope you guys found that helpful. If you did, smash the like. Let me know in the comments where you want me to go next, and then check out that video in the link here that will show you how to do some of these tips and tricks that I have with Google Earth, because it can save you a ton of time on the front end in your homestead search. All right, folks, we'll see you in the next one.